The Appalachian Mountains are more than just a landscape of breathtaking beauty. They're a treasure trove of eerie folklore and spine-chilling legends. From the life-stealing raven mocker of Cherokee mythology to Alabama's ghostly White Thang,
and the extraterrestrial terror of the Flatwoods Monster, those hills and hollers hold stories that blur the line between myth and reality. Tonight on Zumundous, we'll dive deep into the mysterious world of the Appalachian cryptids and the strange encounters that keep these legends alive.
Zumundous.
And welcome to Zumundous Podcast, episode 16. I'm Doolin.
And I'm Keith.
And we're going to talk about something that really fascinates me because I lived in this area for a little while. And we actually did an episode of Zumundo way back when where we talked about the Brown Mountain Lights.
It's funny. I looked up this very subject and a whole thing about the Brown Mountain Lights came on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is a cool phenomenon.
We talked to my friend Jerry, who used to be my neighbor up there, who had seen the Brown Mountain Lights and stuff. But there's a lot more to the Appalachians than just strange lights. There's a lot of things, man. And, you know, when I moved up there, you know, I would hear about some of this stuff. But there's yes, there's a lot of people that live up there, but there's also a lot of wilderness out there as well,
absolutely,
you know?
Yeah.
And it's beautiful wilderness. I absolutely love it up there.
Yeah.
But but we're going to talk a little bit about the cryptids of the Appalachian region, and of which there are many, many of them. You know, and I don't know, some of these might be more folklore stories than actual accounts. You know, there are accounts to back up some of them and stuff, but they're at the very most they are widespread tales that are told amongst all of the locals and residents that live there that date back several years.
And there's several incarnations of some of these that are real close to each other.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think it's a regional thing. It's just the story gets twisted and then you get another cryptid maybe.
Yeah,
you know, out of it.
Exactly. But we each picked out a few just to kind of like touch on a little bit here and there and tell you a little bit about some of these strange creatures that are believed to live in the Appalachian region. So do you want to get it kicked off or you want me to get it started?
Yeah. So one of the things I want to say that we're not going to talk about because we can do entire episodes on are things like the Mothman.
Correct.
Bigfoot in general, right? But there are variations.
Actually, I have something that's kind of a variation of Bigfoot.
There's a lot of that in this region. So I didn't go into Bigfoot himself. There's an Appalachian Bigfoot.
There's the woolly booger. That's what they call him.
Woolly booger.
They call him the Carolina woolly booger. I'm not even making that up.
There's a bunch of stuff that, you know, we're obviously not going to cover all of them. The Kentucky Groblins, which I'm pretty sure are just the UFO sighting that we reported on before already, which was a really cool story. But that kind of stuff, you know, it kind of bleeds in. And of course, you said the New Jersey Devil.
The Jersey Devil, we're going to stay away from because that's like a whole episode into itself because those are the most well-known ones. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you might not have heard about from the Appalachians. These are the lesser-known cryptids, but they still have their place in the folklore and the stories that happen out there in the Appalachian Mountains.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll kick this off with the Wampus cat.
Send it.
So the Wampus cat, which is funny because you hear people say things like catty wampus.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's related. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to make that connection yet. But it's a shape-shifting panther-like creature with glowing eyes, and it's linked to a Cherokee legend, which I'll tell you here in a second.
Okay.
It's said to haunt the forests of the Appalachian foothills, known for its eerie human-like scream. All right, so
I have theory on that.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, have you ever heard like a mountain lion or like a big cat, like a puma or something like that?
They say they sound like crying babies.
It sounds like a crying baby, or like I'll give you another example. You know, one of my friends he moved out west of town, out west of the highway out here, and like here in the town we live in, we call that the boonies because, like, yes, there are some houses out there.
There's bobcats and stuff.
There's tons of bobcats and big cats and stuff that live out there in those areas and stuff. And so, you know, my friend, he was a teenager at the time, and he remember like going out there, and he said like he thought he heard a woman crying for help in the night, and then his stepdad was like, "Oh no, that's it's like a puma or a bobcat or something.
Or like a
that, yeah.
Florida mountain lion.
Yeah. He goes,
panther?
he's like, yeah, don't go towards that noise. You know what I
that's
mean?
a bad thing to do.
Yeah, but it sounds like, either a human or a child calling for help,
which is definitely something that could bait somebody in. On
even
if it's not
intentional.
intentional.
It's not intentional, obviously. That's probably just like what they do,
Yeah, they just sound weird.
But you were saying it would sound like a large cat or something like that, which, very possibly could be, but shape-shifting, I don't know about that.
They can also roar too. So
yeah, of course.
Big cats. Okay, so this Wampus cat, it's a Cherokee legend of a woman, a girl that's been cursed to be the Wampus cat forever. So she apparently went to a ritual that she wasn't supposed to see, and what the ritual might have been was like a pre-hunt ritual where everybody gets together, like all the hunters, and they they apologize basically for all the lives that the animals have to give, so that they can eat and stuff. And I guess, I don't know the specifics of the ritual, but she disguised herself in, like cat skins and stuff to hide and get close to it.
Right.
So it sounds like it was intentional that she was there.
Right.
And then she was cursed to like live in those skins forever.
Course,
so they became her, and that whether somebody cursed her or it just magically happened, like the skins became hers and she had to live the rest of her life as this big monster cat.
Okay.
But I like this because it's kind of the Bodman Moore like throwback,
Yeah.
But it's, it's been described as black at times. It's been described as like a big lion type thing, not like a lion, like an African lion, but like a, just in color, like a fawn colored monster. It's all over the place up there. So I thought that one was cool. Catty Wampus, Wampus cat.
Cool.
It's got a fun name too.
Based on a Cherokee legend.
Yeah, and it's kind of got a neat backstory to it. Yeah.
I've got one based on a Cherokee legend as well. This is the Raven Mocker.
Okay.
The Raven Mocker has part of Cherokee mythology. It's an evil spirited being that preys on the dying, stealing its life force to extend its own life. So almost like a life force vampire kind of creature. So this thing,
what's the guy from the show?
Oh, from
the energy vampire?
Yeah, kind of like that, but instead of feeding on your irritation or whatever, this actually feeds on your life energy, which would essentially extend its life, ending yours. You know what I mean? So like a
true vampire.
Yeah, like a life force vampire kind of. Now, what does it look like? This thing appears as a fiery shape, resembling a raven in flight, or often like trailing sparks behind it. So it's like this fiery being. And its cries, it's called the Raven Mocker because its cries sound like a diving raven. And if you hear that, according to Cherokee mythology, it signals imminent death. It can become invisible, allegedly, except to skilled medicine men who are trained to see, the spiritual aura around it. And it steals life by consuming the heart of a dying person, gaining the years their victim would have lived. So if I've got another 32 years left in me, it eats my heart, it gets to live another 32 years.
Okay.
So, and it harvests their body parts to replace its decaying limbs. So this thing is like it's a Frankenstein, man. It's
sounds
crazy.
like it, yeah.
So according to Cherokee legend, you can have talismans or protective rituals that is supposed to protect you from the Raven Mocker. There was a famous shaman reportedly destroyed several Raven Mockers using duckroot tea, which allowed him to see their true form. There were some notable encounters. A young hunter said that he witnessed a Raven Mocker and saw like a tribe of them doing their like dark rituals.
Okay.
And then he was found dead 7 days later, like after he reported it. So kind of crazy.
It's like the Raven movie.
Yeah. So that's the Raven Mocker, man.
The Raven Mocker sounds like something I don't want to mess with.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. I got I think it's a funny name. Another interesting one. It's called the Snallygaster.
That's definitely a funny name.
Yeah. And this one, Appalachian, this might be a stretch, right? Because it's often associated with Maryland and West Virginia. Mm-hmm. It's a terrifying bird-like creature with sharp claws, a metal beak, which that's the first I've heard of that, and glowing eyes. I also read that it has like octopus tentacles and stuff. Gosh, it's got like a 10-foot wingspan or like a 10-foot, tentacles hanging off the back. It could also change colors like an octopus, right? And do all kinds of weird stuff. And, it's believed to haunt the Appalachian region. It's considered a legendary terror of the area. It was last sighted. Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention this on the Wampus cat. There's no current sightings according to these reports that I heard on some of the stuff. But the last sighting was in 1933 of this thing. Now they've got some pretty funny sightings though. Like one, they saw within 2 weeks there was like 50 or 60 sightings between like DC and like Frederick, Maryland, and that area. Yeah, so people have seen it.
People have seen it. That's crazy.
And they said
it sounds so out there.
Yeah, it sounds wild, right? And it like flies kind of low and stuff. But they could have been seeing bats or big birds or whatever. I don't know about the tail scenario. That's kind of unique with octopus tentacles and stuff. But two guys, or supposedly 2 or 3 guys, were fighting one outside of a train station for like an hour and a half. Like, so this thing's like done battle with man. It sounds like
battle with man.
It's like Cthulhu or something, right? But I just the appearance is like so ridiculous, and I've seen some pictures, like drawings of it, that are just, I don't know. To me, it seems pretty wild and unlikely that an octopus bird is flying around, the metropolitan area and terrorizing everybody. But yeah, I mean, there's, mountains and farmland out there. So it makes sense that there's room, like we're saying, like there's a lot of wilderness. And this thing is just kind of funny because the sightings are what really drives me. Like if you're fighting a big chicken outside that's got octopus tentacles, like what's going on here?
Either that or you're Peter Griffin.
Or exactly, yeah, he's boxing the chicken, or maybe they had a little bit too much whiskey or something. Wait, 33, is that during Prohibition?
No, Prohibition was over by 33.
Fair enough.
But that's wild.
Yeah.
I've got another wild one for you. This is the Alabama White Thang, spelled Thang. Thang. I guess that's how they say thang out there. But the Alabama White Thang is, I guess it could be argued that it's a variant of Bigfoot, kind of. But this is it's described as an 8-foot tall creature with white fur, glowing red eyes, but also supernatural speed. And it emits an eerie screech resembling a woman's scream. So once again, that leads. I'm like, but yeah, big cats can sound like that too.
Okay. Yeah. No, that. I mean, there's some science there, right?
Yeah. There's been some theories floating around about that. One is that it's a genetic mutation, an escaped exotic animal, an alien visitor, a supernatural entity, or nature's guardian spirit. So basically, everything. All the theories are everything that you could possibly think of. It's inspired books, documentaries, songs, and art, and it attracts cryptid hunters and enthusiasts. There's some notable sightings here of the Alabama White Thang in the 1950s. Farmers reports witnesses describe a towering, ghostly figure with glowing eyes, accompanied by strange howling sounds and large footprints. So, like I said, variant of Bigfoot. There was a 1971 Huntsville encounter. Residents and campers report a large white creature with glowing eyes, leaving spine-tingling howls in its wake, and eyewitness sketches and footprints document those events. In the 1980s, at the Wheeler Wildlife Refuge, a family hears a piercing scream and spots a massive white figure with long limbs, glowing eyes, that vanished into the underbrush. So cryptid researchers have analyzed the footprints, interviewed witnesses, and set up trail cameras, but so far, nothing substantial. There never is, So
I like that. Yeah. I got one that I like, which is kind of similar. I mean, it's just called the Grafton Monster.
Okay.
And the Grafton Monster was spotted in the 50s in West Virginia. It's described as a massive bipedal creature. And I think just because the size of this one, it's estimated to weigh between 1,000 and 1,500 pounds. So it's big.
Yeah.
And it's got big, broad shoulders, short fur. So kind of Bigfoot-esque, but its head sits low, like in front of its body. So you can't see it. It looks headless from the back. Yeah. And they think it eats livestock and stuff.
Ooh, so crazy. Another one that they always eat the livestock, man.
Yeah.
It's always a thing with the cattle mutilation. I got one more here to jump into, and this is the Flatwoods Monster. Now, the Flatwoods Monster, this thing was first encountered in 1952, and this was in West Virginia. 6 boys, a dog, and a mother witnessed a pulsing red light streaking across the sky and crashing on a nearby hill. So they went to investigate, and at the crash site, they encountered, so they said, a 10-foot tall creature with a blood red body, a glowing green face, and claws. So they fled in terror. One boy reported fainting, and the dog ran away. So the news of that sighting made national headlines, which prompted the Air Force to go in there and investigate, and their findings were recorded as part of Project Blue Book, apparently.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, so like an actual UFO sighting.
Yeah, okay, exactly. Skeptics suggested that it was just a large barn owl, And the red light was explained as a meteor. So they saw a meteor go down, and then they came over and saw like a large owl and freaked out or something. Like maybe it might have been dark.
A green-faced owl.
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe they had hysteria. I don't know. Behavior psychologists linked the hysteria to Cold War anxieties, including fears of nuclear war and flying saucers, because in 1952, flying saucers were all the rage back then.
They really were, though. They really were.
But there's a little bit of historical context there. Sightings occurred during the time of heightened fear, atomic bomb testing, and the rise of UFO culture in America, like as I said. And Project Blue Book's analysis dismissed it as hysteria, but couldn't definitively explain all of the elements of the story. So like you said, large red being with a green face, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Doesn't remind me of an owl, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely not.
Owls have been, and barn owls specifically, have been kind of, I don't know if excuse is the right thing, an explanation for aliens and stuff in the past, because they're like, oh, they're big, they can be aggressive, they can fly at you, scare you, and they're nocturnal, right? So
yeah, well, I mean, I've always been a big proponent of, with the Mothman, even though we said we're not going to talk about it, but I always believe that the Mothman is nothing more than sandhill cranes that have been reported at night. Because I mean, we have them, and they walk around my neighborhood here. Sandhill cranes, they're big birds. They have a huge wingspan, and they have these red spots on the side of their heads and stuff. And if you're seeing that at night with those giant wingspans and stuff flying by, and maybe the headlights catch those red spots,
and that's why eyes or something.
Yeah, so it's reported as like a shadowy figure with red eyes. I've always said I'm like pretty much convinced that Mothman sightings are just sandhill cranes that are seen at night.
What's funny is I don't see a lot of birds at night. So I mean, they go to sleep and stuff. So I've never seen a sandhill crane at night. So that's
I don't think I've. I mean, like I said, we have them in this neighborhood. They walk around, like they'll be walking through my backyard sometime.
Cool.
They're all up in here and stuff. And and I see them.
That'd be neat if you see one. Just take mental note.
Yeah, I mean, I do notice it, like when I drive, because they'll be standing on the side of the road when I drive by, and stuff. But but you don't typically see them at night. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that they don't go. That doesn't mean they go away at night.
Right. They're still out there.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I think that, large birds like that are probably responsible for a lot of these cryptid sightings. All of them, I can't say, but definitely a portion of them.
Well, like the Wolfman.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's hard to explain that. With a bird.
We talked about the Beast of Bray Road on the old podcast and stuff, and that's kind of a Wolfman story, or a shape-shifting large dog kind of creature.
Yeah, I like this.
So I mean, there's a lot of shapeshifters out there, and but that begs the question. I'm like, well, did you see them shapeshift? Maybe you just saw a large wolf.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to say, but these cryptids, they're more than local legends, I think. But I think ultimately they are that, but they represent.
There's bears, right, which could be Bigfoots and stuff like that.
Especially if they're standing upright.
Big cats, and they've probably been hunted, to a point where they're not as prevalent as they used to be. Wolves used to be all the way out here, but you don't see those too. Coyotes exist. I mean, there's things that live out there that are big and aggressive, pigs and stuff.
Yeah, right? And plus I think that when you see like a lot of these creatures at night and stuff like that,
changes the whole thing.
Well, it changes the whole thing, and what'll happen is you'll see, like, maybe you see a black bear or something out there. Like, I've come across black bear when I used to live up there, like, all the time. They were close to my house and stuff. And anytime I ever encountered a black bear was during the daytime, because I don't go walking through the woods at night.
True.
But there was a couple of times I was on a hiking trail, and maybe about 50, 60 yards away, there was a black bear. It turned and looked at me and ran away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wasn't freaked out by that, because like I could very clearly see what it was. Like, I definitely didn't want to get closer to it. But I could very clearly see what it was. But, if you are seeing something in the dark and you don't know what it is, maybe you see a figure, or maybe you see something kind of dimly lit, your brain is going to fill in those blanks for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, to help you process what it is you're seeing. So in your brain might go to a crazy place. You know what I mean? And so I think that's kind of where a lot of these stories come from, personally.
Yeah, and a lot of them are just interesting because you'll have multiple accounts of the same type of monster or whatever, and it's like, oh, yeah, I don't know, it makes it fun.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's like different variations of the same type of monster.
And like maybe Bigfoot's out there.
Yeah, but I think that also it has to do with the fact that there's just the Appalachian Mountains, having the fact that I have lived out there and stuff, but they have a really rich tradition of storytelling. Like that's as old as the hills itself. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of these stories, be they from Cherokee legends or whatever, or through the people that live there now, These stories have been passed down from years and years of just, different storytelling. You know how the tall tales work, the next person builds it up a little bit more and so on and so forth. But it can also represent cultural fears, environmental awareness, and the desire to make sense of what we don't understand.
True.
So I think that in terms of, feasible, debunked, more information needed, I'm gonna lean on highly skeptical on any of these, because it really just sounds like local legends without a lot of information or evidence to back anything up.
As the only people I know that have actually confirmed the existence of a cryptid, I have to say it's possible, but
anything's
highly
possible.
unlikely. Just like the one that we found was real, which is the beast of Bodmin Moor,
that one wasn't really that one wasn't far fetched at all. And I remember saying that when we first talked about that on the old podcast. I was just like, yeah, it's a large cat. Like, yeah, they're just because
adapted.
Yeah. Just because they're not local to or like not native to the area doesn't mean they're not there. You know,
we have tons of, what do you call those? Invasive species.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That being said, I mean, there's definitely stuff people see out there and there's a lot of space out there. So I'm not saying none of these exist. They're unlikely though, due to the, supernatural abilities that some of them have. And I doubt there's a giant octopus with wings flying around.
And, probably not.
Metal beak and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Or a giant glowing red ball of light with a green face.
I feel like, and they say the sightings of, there's no current sightings of some of these things. So maybe they're all extinct. I don't know, but we've never also, found a skeleton or anything like.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah.
So the Appalachian Mountains have always been a place of mystery, a realm where the boundaries of reality stretch just enough to let the unexplainable slip through. Whether you believe in life-stealing witches, ghostly protectors of the wilderness, or glowing-eyed monsters from the stars, one thing is for certain: these stories connect us all to a deeper sense of wonder and curiosity. Thanks for joining us on this mystery into the unknown. Remember, stay curious, stay skeptical, and as always, keep your eyes on the shadows. For Zumundous Podcast, I'm Doolin.
And I'm Keith.
And we are signing off. We'll see you next week, guys.
Yeah, those are fun.
Look, there's a cryptid in my backyard right now. It's a sandhill crane.
Wampus.